Mission Control, this is the Real Martian. I am still alive. Sorry for the large break in videos here. I'd like to explain kind of what's been going on, why there has been such a large break. Everybody's safe, nobody's hurt. We'll start with those ones, so you can stop worrying if you're inclined to do so. Basically what happened is I got sick and Mrs. Martian got sick. We just been working so hard. We worked ourselves in, well actually we just worked ourselves into being a little unhealthy so that when the flu season came along, which is kind of hitting right now, kids went back to school in late August there, and then what ends up happening is kids get sick at school, parents get sick from kids at school, parents come to work, they get me sick, I come home, I get Mrs. Martian sick. That's kind of what happens there, but usually that doesn't happen. We try to stay pretty healthy, but with our bodies being worked so hard, we ended up succumbing to the illness, and it put me down for a while. That's one reason why there hasn't been a video. Second reason is we're out of money. The cash flow of all the projects and everything have stopped. We have to get some stuff put in place. There'll be a little more money showing up here to help us out at the end of the month, but basically we can't buy anything else. We're maxed out, and we got to start getting that business up and running. So good news is that everything that we need to buy we have bought, but that means all the newer stuff, some of the automation, the watering system, the lighting, all those things are going to be on hold, and we're going to have to piece them together throughout the winter. We're just not going to be able to afford it all up front. So that really slowed things down. I guess that's a kind of like, well, duh statement. But now that slowed things down. Another thing, third thing that's really slowed us down is while the insulation has arrived and it's been here for quite a few weeks, the cover for the building, the new cover for the building, it made it over on the slow boat in, boy, like 20 days. It actually wasn't very slow. But then it's been stuck down in LA, Los Angeles, California, for those not familiar with the US, and customs. And it just had to go through the process. And normally it goes through pretty fast, but I think the world situation has made it to where it took a little longer to get through customs. So the good news is boy, the people there probably hated me because I was calling them like, when is it going to come? You guys don't understand. I'm against the weather deadline. If it doesn't show up, I'm really in a bad spot. But they worked with me, and it is shipped as of Monday last week. So it should be up here in the Pacific Northwest. It should be arriving in Portland. It takes a few days to get up here. I guess probably the way the logistics work. It takes a few days, so it should be up here maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week. And then I've got to go pick it up, and it's game on time. So the weather has definitely turned. It is getting colder. We're in the high 50 Fahrenheit range, kind of 40 to 50 Fahrenheit, so no more 60 or 70 Fahrenheit days. Everything's dropping pretty quickly. At night we're in the high 30s. We've already had quite a few freezes. The building heater is running, and boy is it running. You can hear it. Or cha-ching, 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 cha-ching is another way to say it. We're making enough money to cover those costs, but I cannot wait to get the cover and insulation in. So this upcoming weekend is going to be all go, no quit, get it done, hoorah kind of weekend, where we're going to have to de-skin the building and skin it all in one day. We can't leave the top off, so that's going to be a rough day. The weather looks like it's going to cooperate. It looks like it's going to be high 50s, low 60s maybe with sun. If it does rain, that's actually okay, because it'll help kind of get the structure wet, and that will allow us to pull the fabric over the top of it easier. That said, the biggest thing we can't have is wind. So that's a key thing that we don't want. So prayers are appreciated. I'm still waking up, sorry. I wanted to get this video to you guys. Another thing, I guess this would be the fourth thing that has stopped me from doing a video, is what I've been working on. While I have been kind of sick and all that, I have tried to continue to move forward. I've been working on the requirements decomposition for the Primus certification and the Washington State Department of Agriculture certification. So I want to take a moment and show you that. It is totally boring and dull, so I'll come back and give just a wrap-up after I've done showing you a few of these things, but I even think it's boring and dull, so I'm sure watching it on YouTube may not be the funnest thing in the world, but it's important. I will say this, if you are considering going into business and running an operation where you go to farmers markets, farmers markets is kind of different, but I can explain why I said that. If you're going to try to distribute to large businesses like Fred Meyer's, Safeway, Albertsons, Fry's, any of those places, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, anybody like that, you're going to have to do what we're looking at doing. Costco is another one. You got to get certified, and it's tough. So we're decomposing all these requirements, figuring out what we need to do, and then we'll have to adjust our game plan here. So if I said farmers markets, I was reading a few farmer markets kind of requirements, and a lot of them do require state licensing depending on what type of food you're selling. Here's two things you really need to know. One, there's this thing called raw agriculture, and there's this thing called food. Everybody wants to be over here. If you're growing vegetables, you want to be here. You want to be raw ag. You do not want to be food. And what happened for us is we're kind of right here. So we're kind of right in the middle. We're on this line. And we've had the regulators out here twice now, and we've really talked to them. They've actually been very helpful, which is weird. But we appreciate it. Anyway, raw ag is essentially cut it, box it, ship it, sell it. That's it. That's all you do. You don't do anything else other than cut it and box it. And because of that, you fall into different legal categories because the consumer is expected to sit there and go, this is raw ag. It's marketed as raw ag. It is not marketed as ready to eat. And that's where you want to be. A lot less stringent. It's just as stringent. There's just less overall rules, I should say. Over here with food, as soon as you take something that you cut over here and then you wash it or you mix it with something else, you start moving this way. All right, so you go from raw ag over to food. So if you wash it, okay, you can make an argument that you're just washing it. And then you have to take on water requirements. You have to do water testing, you have to do water certification, you have to have lab tests, you have to have antimicrobials that you put into the water, you have to have sanitization, you have to have cleaning. That's all doable. That's pretty realistic, actually. There's no real problem with that. But then as you continue towards the packaging, if you mix it, now you have more requirements. You have a totally different area that you have to be in within your facility, and it has to have smooth floors, it has cement floors, it has to have floor drainage so you can spray the whole thing down. The walls have to be sprayable, the ceiling has to be sprayable, the lights have to be unbreakable. And you have to have booty wash stations and hand wash stations and all this stuff just because you want to mix it. And that was an eye-opener for me when I went through it. So it's good that they have the regulations, but I will honestly say this. My intuition on this is telling me that a majority of these regulations really are built by other businesses that lobby the feds. These regulations are so onerous that a normal, everyday Joe would not, or Jane, would not be able to just pick it up and be like, oh, I get it. They're expensive. The system that you have to go through is, I would call it a racket, where a company actually maintains a standard and then another company is the one who comes and audits you, and it's generally for a good purpose, but the way they set it all up, it basically does everything in their power to exclude small businesses making their way up, so where they can actually distribute in larger. So it's more like big business pushing down and putting a wall of defense up so the small guy can't get up there. And that really irks me. In my case, I have dealt with auditors for aerospace company, and I will say that for aerospace, that means building airplanes, okay? Building spacecraft, pretty big stuff. the requirements here, the Primus, and other certification requirements are just as onerous, if not more so, than building a spacecraft. So I've had experience with it, and therefore I can break it down and do things, but a normal person would look at this, I think, and I'm not saying that in the way like I'm better, because that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, if you're not trained, if you don't have experience, if you haven't gone through it, it is hugely overwhelming. I've done all those things, and it has taken me 2 to 3 weeks here of decomposing requirements. My brain is literally like oozing out of my ears, and I've gone through it. So could you imagine someone not going through it and then having to go through that? And I consider myself to be somewhat intelligent. I am an aerospace engineer by degree, and I just don't know how a normal farmer would be able to get through it. And I mean that in a really, I think I might be coming across differently than what I mean, but I mean, it is so much. It's just ridiculous. And even for us, honestly, it might shut us down. And we put a lot of money into it, and we never knew about, we knew about like the Department of Agriculture stuff, and we talked to them, but the Primus and all these other requirements, until you really get into it and you really start pushing, trying to get more customers, you really don't find out about these things. So anyway, it was a little bit longer than what I wanted to do. I guess the bottom line is it's very much hard work. I think people can do it, but it's definitely, you got to reach out. Oh, another part of the racket. There's other companies. So there's the company that makes a standard. There's a company that certifies you. There's another company that consults you. So you got 3 companies that are generated just for this standard, right? So all of them are expensive. To get your certifying company to come up and visit you is at least $2,000. To have a consultant come and walk through everything with you is probably thousands and thousands of dollars, because they're the ones that would normally take, you know, that your average Joe or Jane would contact the consultant and be like, hey, we want you to come over here and help us out. So then you're throwing down thousands of bucks. And I see that as a barrier for small business. It's nuts. It's nuts. So anyway, I guess that was a minor event session there. We're working through it. I think other people can work through it as well, but I'm frustrated with how I see the system, and I see how our business structure really makes it almost impossible for small business to be successful unless you're really stubborn. So I am stubborn, and we're going to see how far we can get. But at this point right now, I'll tell you, there's no guarantees going forward. That we're getting closer and closer to how is this going to work type of thing. So let me jump over and show you what I've been doing and why I say all this, because the pictures might be worth a little bit more than my words.